Good evening, everybody. I wanted to start a little earlier than I did, but I was planning out things a little bit for today's stream, and then I decided, you know what, it's a little more fun if we just do it live. Oh, goodness, sorry, I forgot to turn the beta back on. That would have been bad. Just bear with me a second here. I will mention we won't be playing this tonight, but I think Brace Yourself Games mentioned that that the Rift of the Necrodancer demo would be going live again. And I will also just mention too that there was a really nice post that Weather Factory put out on Book of Hours, and specifically the 1-year anniversary of Book of Hours. So. Lots of interesting information in there. It looks like their plans are after House of Light that they're going to be moving on to the next game likely. So in the case of so some of you may recall that with when it first came out, there was sort of a perpetual edition. And in the case of Cultist Simulator, the way that wound up working was there were 3 really good but relatively small DLC. And then there was one big expansion called Exile, and I don't think that was originally intended for the game. That almost kind of wound up being Cultist Simulator 1.5. I mean, again, I don't know what the full plans for it was, but certainly Exile came quite a bit after some of those other ones. So that was a nice little bonus. And in the case of Book of Hours, what it looks like is that there's just a huge expansion that's going to be given for the game. And then they did leave the door open to returning to Book of Hours after, after the third game. And there are some details about the third game that were mentioned inside of it, but I'll leave that for the article. But I think probably the best thing that we can do here is expect that House of Light, well, as we've seen, House of Light, even in its beta form, so we don't have the full thing, and the full thing is not finished being made yet. Really big, a great reason to go back into Hush House. But it looks like we have a new game to look forward to after that. Although, of course, I imagine their focus is going to be on House of Light, and then, of course, figuring out how to make the whole thing, right? It's all well and good to have an idea for a game. I think lots of people have ideas for games. Weather Factory is notable for being able to implement those ideas, and I imagine there is a lot of planning that goes into it. In any case, exciting times, really good little article to read, and they do have, hello, Olmsted, how are you doing? And then on top of that, they do have a new weather forecast out. I always enjoy watching these. So Weather Factory for 4 weeks now have been putting out these forecasts basically once every 2 weeks. And they look at the popular upcoming games on Steam. They do some forecasts in terms of what the games will do in terms of review counts. So basically, review counts are a proxy for how well a game has sold. There's this idea called the Boxlighter number, which is intended to be a multiplier to estimate the number of units that the game sold. Now, there is actually something interesting. This is something that I've looked into. I've actually looked into over a couple of years in a few different contexts. I've never really had an opportunity to publish this stuff, although I have noticed that people have kind of worked around parallel lines in a couple of cases. But one big revelation I got when I looked into this is that there is definitely a difference in terms of the multiplier over in between genres. So some types of games are more likely to get a review rather than another one. So I actually think it can be a little bit, I think overall it's probably better if you focus on reviews rather than trying to estimate sales out of reviews, particularly if you're comparing over different genres. But even then, the idea of that proxy, you are still going to wind up with some differences in terms of the different tags and all of that. And I mean, with that in mind, it depends on what you're doing. So I think in the case of Weather Factor, I actually really like that they do that series because it's easy for people to sort of like thumb their noses at forecasts that are off. I mean, there's a lot of people who don't actually go out and say something in advance, who will tell you what an idiot you were for not, not getting it right. But I think there's a lot of value in hearing about the reasoning prior to the realized value, and then you can have a conversation about what might or might not have gone right with that forecast. So, and in that case, I think basically it's an opportunity for more people to learn from them. So I actually really like that. Obviously, this is a game that anybody can play, but I like the fact that there are professionals who are actually trying to do this in a somewhat systematic way, and doing so in a way that can they can be held to account for their, I don't want to say, like, obviously I don't mean like people should stand in judgment on them, but like it's nice to hear the reasoning behind a forecast and then see the realized forecast and see whether or not it worked out. And then again, the only caveat that I would give for my own forecasts, I suppose, would be, because I know of those differences in terms of the genres and such, for my part, if I wanted to try and figure out roughly how much a game would sell, I would probably want to make my forecasts sort of contained within a certain genre, just so that those genre-specific factors aren't going to be at play, or alternatively explicitly account for them. But the data set that I was working with to estimate those is actually a few years old now, and obviously there have been some changes to Steam. Now, Olmstead, I'm sorry, I was busy ranting. Overall, I wanted to just highlight, if you haven't watched them, they're actually a lot of fun. I mean, for those of you that have listened to Skeleton Songs, you'll know that Lottie and Alexis, the co-founders of Weather Factory, very charismatic, very fun to listen to. And while individually they are incredibly smart and articulate people, and it is not just the British accent, although that definitely grants like an extra 25% to rhetoric. But the combined factor, right? The fact that they can, bounce off of each other. I mean, again, this is of course what happens when you have two very thoughtful, intelligent, talented people who are well-spoken in the same room together. Generally, you get to hear a very interesting conversation. But yeah, so any of you who've listened to Skeleton Songs certainly know that is just interesting to hear in its own right. And in this case, this would be something specific to games that they're doing on a somewhat regular basis, and I think a few of you may be interested in. In any case, I do apologize, Olmstead. I know you wrote something before, so I still have not finished even one BOH run yet since I got lost in the sauce, but I'll begin a new run for the DLC. I will mention that there's nothing stopping you from picking up your run with the DLC. All of the decisions that you made in terms of who you helped out in the library, those will actually still be those will still be in the those will still be part of those characters, and all of the new House of Light stuff will be added. The only thing that won't be the same is if you go to if you made it to the Severn Chamber prior to the patch, they added a phonograph here. There's a couple of differences. So I noticed the Cucurbit Barrette is no longer in the dispensary. Comes later in the house. So that does deny you some edge earlier on. I think probably the earliest place you can get edge would likely be the Foundry now. But yeah, if you want, I notice a tendency, and I don't want to tell people how they should play this game. Obviously, I don't like it when people do that to me, and I expect myself not to do that to others, unless, of course, they want it, right? Like if they are interested, if they want to get some tips, I'm very happy to provide them. But obviously, the intention here is to let people have that same experience I have, which is to really enjoy and sort of lose themselves in the experience, particularly because I think some of the enjoyment of the game does come from being a bit lost and then sort of having that moment of realization. I think there's a book that, it's an old book now, but it was Nicholas Carr. He did I think it was an Atlantic article called "Is Google Making Us Stupid?" And then he expanded it into a book called The Shallows. And, obviously, "Is Google Making Us Stupid?" that's a provocative title. It's intended to get people thinking, and inevitably this is one of these headlines that people read the headline and don't read the article. I'm probably as guilty as this. I would inevitably point out as like, well, if you read the Phaedrus, you have this story about how writing is going to make everyone forgetful. And of course, if I were to do that, Carr would point out, I did in fact mention this very thing in my article. Thank you for not reading it. And as a result, this does kind of make the point for the author. Obviously, this was a completely one-sided conversation. I don't mean to suggest everybody reacted that way, but I don't think it's that controversial to say that people tend to comment on things without reading them quite a bit nowadays. But I do think I kind of like this game as a little bit of an antidote to Google. Now, clearly there's a wiki, and clearly people can look up the answers if they want, but the stakes are low. You don't get to keep the Spintria if you win. And so this is a game where you can get lost. There's absolutely no penalty to being lost. And if you are willing to endure that, if you can allow yourself to feel uncomfortable for a period of time, the reward to that is this really special feeling when you do get it. And it's one that is hard to articulate in some cases, but I think is a really valuable, and it's a hard to get one. Again, because we live in an age of good. And again, I don't want to sound like old man yelling at cloud or something like that, but the thing here is that, to my mind, there is really something valuable in being able to step out of that, right? So, I think what I'm kind of trying to talk about here is that you have no shortage of people who are recommending, everything under the sun to try and find some sense of satisfaction in, the perils of modern life, or to the perils of modern life, right? So you have people talking about, dopamine fasting, and then you have people talking about digital detoxes, and you have, again, this is goop for guys, basically. But obviously that's not an original coinage on my part. But by the way, I wonder if this is just a quirk or if there really is. Okay, yeah. I was wondering why it seemed like there were only 3 yellow stairs on this. But the thing is that there are much simpler ways of getting a feeling like this, right? Allowing yourself to be lost in Book of Hours and to take your time, right? Get on the wavelength that the game is on, and just accept that, time is kind in Brandkrug, the hours are kind in Brandkrug, the only thing that is keeping you from, the only thing really pushing you to make any kind of progress is your own impatience, and coming to terms with that and just being able to move with it. This is a nice little moment that it's a bit of a treat you can give yourself, assuming that you do so. And again, in terms of real life, it's tough, right? Like sometimes if I'm reading a newspaper article or something, I'll want to look things up. If I'm reading a book and I run into a word that I don't know, at work I have a dictionary beside me, on a tablet. I can double tap a word. I can look up a definition. These tools exist for a reason. They're good things, right? I like that I am able to do that. But the thing is that when you get used to that, when you sort of have everything sort of in front of you and you're not, you sort of feel this sense that not having the information in front of you is a bad thing or makes you feel anxious. There can be that temptation to just sort of gobble all of the treats that that this game has in store for you. And the best way to experience it, in my feeling at least, is to avoid that temptation and instead, try as much as you can, short of not enjoying the game, of course, to give yourself that opportunity to, feel lost for a bit, understanding that that is something that will give away to a really wonderful feeling when you do get it. But I don't know. I feel it's something I need to sort of make my case for, because it's the more that I either watch people play or the more I sort of engage, the more I get the feeling that people tend not to play games this way. And I sometimes think it's a shame, because I feel like there's more that people can get out of them. But like I said, it's I can make the case for myself, but I don't mean to instruct people, or I don't mean to deny people the opportunity to play the way that they want. But I guess the big one for me is that I notice the tendency for people to maybe reset the game quite a bit. But the thing is that there's no penalty. There's no way to like start the game wrong. You can make the game a bit more difficult for yourself, but basically, unless you destroy your journal, you'll be fine. Like, you'll just have a different path through the house, really. Anyways, sorry, Olmstead, you wrote something else while I was ranting. That's interesting. You just haven't played in so long that you've forgotten how to play. I think it was that I hit a wall opening up the rooms. And yeah, this is the tricky part, right? Like, if you feel like you could benefit from a tutorial, then obviously going from St. Brendan's Cove back to the gatehouse or whatever, that'll teach you how to play the basics. The other thing, too, is you can have multiple saves. So if you want to, just hang on to your existing save and then load up a new game, see how much you've forgotten or how much you want to remember. There's nothing saying you can't go back to your old save if you want. But anyways, I've filibustered enough. I'm feeling like I should probably host a salon at some point, but let's get some work done here, because there's a lot that I could do. There's some recipes I can craft. Actually, one thing I should mention is I noticed on a Weather Factory post that there was there were teas, which I didn't even think to try, but they were based on the flowers. So I don't think there's Trumpeter's Lily. It may also be that there's like a kettle that I need to... Yeah, I can't see how like a knife or the kitchen bowls would... I mean, maybe water? The other thing is that I may also have the wrong flowers here, so... I've also noticed I don't have that many flowers. Okay, so that's going to be something for me to try in the future. So there's a few things. So one, I would like to renew my inks. Two, I would like to... Okay, sorry, just had a message. So I want to make some inks, but I also want to make some food. I want to tend the chickens, well, and other beasties. Yeah, I have too many things that I want to do. Okay, well, let's start by getting some grapes. Oop, the earth is quiet, not barren, only sleeping. Harvesting is possible in a different season, so I should be... Gather in autumn, carrots, tomatoes, marrows, and blessed onions, all the unsung heroes of the stew pot. Next up... think I am going to have a conversation with the chicken. So we will feed the beastie. Oop. Satisfy this creature's appetite. Food will make a hungry beast or a wild one cooperative. Now, we've got an easy path here with Mr. Kill. Actually, two easy paths with Mr. Kill. So let's talk to him and get him involved. Speak with Mrs. Kill. Mr. Kill always enjoys a chance to catch up with me. If I don't choose a topic, Mr. Kill will offer help as a friend. And now that I have Arab, I should also be able to bring Mrs. Kill in. But let's focus on one thing at a time. Actually, maybe Mrs. Kill would have been the better option to bring in, but never mind. On top of that, I should also be working on restoring some of the... So there's a few things that I've got in terms of like lessons that I would like to learn. So for instance, Unhatched Hymns has Sabazine. Now Sabazine's nice because it has Lantern in it already. I believe with Sacrosolus Invicti we do not have any of that in our set of skills. Disciplines of the Hammer, I think we already have appointed. If not, the Iron Book is another good candidate. Okay, yep. Two easy books here. Sickle and Eclipse, I believe we do have... Wait, really? Okay, that's 3. Interesting. And then the Ascendant, we do have Hyksos, so if I want, I can put more points into Edict's Martial, although obviously I already have Edict's Martial. Actually, Edict's Martial is a special one in that I am willing to put more points into that, so that one I might make an exception for. Okay, well, let's make a decision. So, I'm not sleeping on... So I think at this point I probably want to see what the weather brings. I think I'm also going to wait the 10 seconds for Mr. Kill, because I can restore the Whist right away. Okay, foggy day, so if I have a chance to put something with a lot of moon or knock, I should take that. Especially because I don't have Shapt yet. So the Twin Serpent Tantra would give me Edict's Liminal, which we already have. We've got Cardia's Delight. I think we went through this recently, actually, where I mean, I'm not opposed to reading Cardia's Delights. Let's maybe see if there's anything special I can do with that in the... desk. So if we add our fog, we would add our best knock. Oh yeah, actually, Horns and Ivories gives us a lot of knock now. So we can get 8 on its own. What will my next highest be? I think 14's a bit rich. I wasn't originally going to do this, but let's give this a shot. So, knock, a gate flung wide. I'm a match for this book, enough knock to match Mystery Knock. And while I'm being reckless, let's take the Tryst, and I'm going to get a revelation from that. So, letters to my successor. Okay. So the original plan when I was... Right. So we can really do this at any heart desk. Apparently not. Oh, that's not a... But I don't want to ignore my kitchen duties either. Sorry, just give me a second here. I had a spreadsheet which I closed. Book 2, very very descriptive. Okay, so when I was looking at, I made Stargazy pie. If I use the dough, I can make sea pie. But I think I was going to do something with, I thought I was going to do something with the meringue. Add to milk for a legendary dessert, or with spicing to add apple, or with spicing add to apples or pears, even to mushrooms if you're feeling perverse. Okay, I'm actually going to set this to the side. You might have to go since you just wanted to say hi, but I appreciate your filibuster from earlier. I might stick it out with your current artist run. Well, if you're also feeling stuck on the artist run, I have one of those that's been going on for a year on YouTube as well. But thank you very much for stopping by, Olmstead. I hope you are, I hope you have a good time, whatever you wind up choosing. And if you're ever looking to just watch, you know where to find me. But I hope you have a good evening. Okay, so we'll do what it says on the card first, which is to add milk. Make a floating island. So that is meringue, milk. Okay, nothing for spices. Those are the croutons, so. All right, a pear meringue. I don't think we have apples, but I am going to try other fruits. So, for instance, the Walls of Ys. Ring. I'm going to assume that the misshapen fruit, yeah, that isn't the thing. Loli? Nope. Can't see honey being a factor, but now in a different playthrough I actually wound up with some mushrooms. Okay, I think that's it for meringue options. So I'm just taking the time here to make sure that I have all my candidates. Now, I guess one thing I can do is just keep making more dough. Or actually, didn't I work out that I need more... I think I need more butter for dough, if I'm not mistaken, which is why we were moving on to other recipes. So if that's true, I could make rosehip jam, because I've got lots of sugar, although I already have that, so that's maybe not so interesting. It's also a little funny to me. So if I had the core, and I had the bread, and I had the jam, like you'd think that's the most basic... you'd think that'd be the most basic of the recipes you can put together, but not in my case. Oh, I don't think I worked out jumble yet. Was this the spices as well? Yeah. Orange jumble. So yeah, the question is, what do I want to make? So rosehip jam, we don't need any stats for. The ones above I had points. So boiled eggs seems like a decent enough ingredient to attempt. Assuming that I have... this one's probably going to want to be hatched rather than boiled. Yeah. I thought I had an egg. Maybe I misplaced it, maybe I didn't. But I'll leave that aside. So I guess I'm on to cake batter or meringues. Oh, or vegetable stew. You know what? Actually, vegetable stew is the only gap that I have in this area. So it's humble, but I like it. Did I just get rid of the last vegetables? Goodness. I used to have a big stock of them too. Okay, never mind that. Cream sugar we don't yet have. Dough we want to make. Any of the pies require dough. Alright, so we are either on to cakes or sort of sandwiches. I think I'm going to start with a ham and cheese toastie. Make a ham and cheese toastie, a dish with forage, grail, and heart. So, sorry about the wait there. Mr. Kill can always spare a few hours to help a friend. Coffin maker's assistant, a tamer of trees, a worker of woods, a consigner of cadavers. He has also been known to try his hand very diffidently at poetry. So I'm going to try and restore my whist to make some money. It is autumn when the leaves rustle. The silent landlady has served me apple pie with steamed cream in the window nook. As for the rest, I think we can still try the unhatched hymns. But again, I'm gonna need to start making some choices here in terms of where I want to commit certain skills. And I think I figured out a way I'm gonna do this. I was debating on like sitting down and doing a big audit But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take the existing skills that I have that aren't already spoken for, and I'm going to try and divide them myself in a sort of heuristic way. Again, I like the idea of having these playthroughs being reflections of things that I've learned rather than sitting down and like mapping it all out with my spreadsheet in front of me. Like I have it, I can do it, but I think there's still some fun in trying to see how I can navigate House of Light with my own devices. A full belly makes a helpful friend. This beastie is now inclined to cooperate. Okay, so let's get Mr. Kill to the level we need him to be. So collaborate, whist, we will watch for what lies ahead, boosts Winter and Lantern. Now one thing I didn't think about was the winter memory that I would need. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk with Mr. Kill to try and get that memory myself, and then as a last resort, we'll read a book to get it. But for now, I think I'm going to try my luck. I don't think I'm going to need the FET for other things, so we'll go to the moor. All right, letters to my successor. Advice from Gervinus Van Loren, 11th librarian of Hush House, to the one who will come after him. Some of the advice is practical. Don't worry about losing the house key. Always close the seaward windows. Make sure you feed the cockatoo. Much more of it is rarefied, specifically about the inks of revelation, and some of it relates to Van Loren's own doom. When I was another, I made a foolish wager with the hooded princes to solve 7 riddles. I had not realized the riddles would be set for me by the one I would become. 6 are resolved. The 7th will be the end of me. It waits now in the cellar of the jail, where Collars still believes I can keep it confined, but the first riddle told me I would not see the second dawn. Zangief, wonderful to see you again. How are the books and the hours tonight? Very well. Thank you for asking. I hope you've been enjoying your time in Hush House. I don't know how far down the rabbit hole of Weather Factory things you've been checking, but we got a little bit of news in terms of their next project. So Cultist Simulator had multiple small DLC and then one sort of, to me at least, unexpected big DLC called Exile. So this time around, it looks like they're putting everything into House of Light, and then it looks like they are prototyping a third game in this setting, which is going to be somewhere between Cultist Simulator and Book of Hours, between the mean and chill spectrum. They did leave the door open to doing another expansion after that project, but they've already started teasing a little bit about where they're thinking of going with the next project, and of course with the understanding that there's a lot of work to be done to make all this stuff work. They're a micro studio. They need to make sure they have the money to be able to do that. There's a long road ahead, but I was very excited, and they did a nice big article on it. Actually, one thing I should mention, I did do an interview with them on GOG, and there was a while I wanted to make sure that I had the permission, which I now do. And I've been sitting on it for really terrible reasons, but that is something that I was hoping to do. I obviously can't do it for the exact 1-year anniversary, but I do intend to put that particular interview up on YouTube when I can. I unfortunately did not manage my time very well. I kept them way too late, and they were really nice about it. But that is one thing, if I do get a chance to interview anyone, but specifically them, I do need to make sure I'm a little bit better at holding to the times that I said. But I know people seemed to like that interview, and I've been looking for a chance to share that with people. You like it when there are multiple different types and styles in this? I agree, yes. I think, there's enough here that's familiar with Cultist Simulator that I felt comfortable. But I feel like I've learned a lot more about the setting, and I feel that the things that I have learned in this are much more in line with the kind of character I'm. Because like I remember there are people talking about, wanting to go to the Mansus or something like that. And I'm playing, when I play the Twiceborn, there's actually very good reasons why I shouldn't want to go to the Mansus. But the thing is that my view on this is always that the existence of a new game in a setting does not annihilate the existence of the old game. Like, Cultist Simulator is always going to be there. And if I want the Cultist Simulator experience, I have the Cultist Simulator experience. And particularly in a time, I know now especially, there is this big concern about safety. And I imagine that this would be more true for publishers, but it also sort of feels like developers, maybe, I suppose developers may be responding to the incentives that publishers are giving them, but it does start to raise the question in terms of what exactly independent means, if that's the dynamic. But with this sort of flight to safety, I imagine one translation to that would be more sequels. And, I like more of a thing I like as much as the next person, but I actually think that my greatest admiration are for the people who are willing in that environment to... Lost you on that one. Sorry, in terms of the flight to safety, in terms of games. Oh, yeah, so... I don't know how much you follow the games industry or that, but basically there have been a number of layoffs that have been happening in sort of the large end of game development, and people have been talking about how it is quite difficult to get a publishing contract, and how the publishing contracts that are available seem to be ones that are not very favorable to developers. And you can see why this, like, if my background's in economics, so this is not exactly news to me, but like you see an increase in interest rates, maybe the permanent increase in sort of consumption for games didn't materialize after COVID. And so, there's all these different reasons why people are doing it. But essentially, the people who have money are guarding it. They're considering safer projects because they don't see as many opportunities as they might have in a previous situation. And again, for me, if the sequels that might be coming out of this as the idea of, trying to go for safe games, if this is a response to demands from publishers, implicit or explicit, then to me that invites the question in terms of exactly what do we mean by independent games now? But while also having nothing but sympathy to the fact that people are still trying to keep their studios open, and so will ultimately respond to the circumstances that they find themselves in. But the great respect that I have are for people who are willing to sort of go and do something different, right? So for instance, I really liked the fact that despite the fact that Darkest Dungeon was an incredibly successful game, and I think Red Hook would have done perfectly well if they basically made Darkest Dungeon again with relatively few changes, I like the fact that they did something completely new. It's still Darkest Dungeon, but like it is a different experience from that base game. And likewise, Book of Hours, you have all of the things that made Cultist Simulator interesting, but I feel like Book of Hours would be, a very different kind of feeling in that setting. And again, it's not necessarily guaranteed that this would be something... I mean, I'm happy that people who liked the base games or the original game seem to like Book of Hours, but there's no guarantee of that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. In any case, the respect that I have are for the people who, in environments like this, kind of stick to their guns and do something original, because I think my hope is, and my conviction is, that is rewarded in the end, right? If everybody is focusing on producing a sequel or producing a safe choice, safety tends to be the sort of things that people have seen before, and being willing to sort of go out if you have the means, being able to go out there and be the one that sort of dares to be different at the time when people are, doing the indie gaming version of a Marvel movie, basically, I like to think has a certain reward. You like how Bethesda released Skyrim for the 10th time on yet another platform, and the industry has rewarded them for their daring. Yeah. I mean, again, I don't begrudge a company like Bethesda doing that. I mean, the thing is, people really like Skyrim and they want to play it on different platforms. But I also imagine that probably if you talk to people about what, why did you get into the games industry? It's to create, stories and experiences. And I imagine that can be lucrative. And, obviously having money allows you to do certain things. Certainly, Bethesda has also been able to make Starfield and are working on a sixth Elder Scrolls game. But yeah, obviously, I don't think anybody sits down and says, I really want to realize somebody else's game on yet another platform. All right, sorry, I've been babbling on. Some authorities claim that it is difficult to lose a pot of Peribiot ink, but they haven't lived at Hush House. Okay, the ham and cheese toasty. Breakfast, lunch, or emergency? I do like some of the writing in this. I like a lot of the writing in this, actually, but that is a particularly charming one. Okay, so this is a first course. And it has Forge, Grail, and 2 hearts. I have to wonder what the conversations were like to figure out the aspects of different food types. That must have been very fun. So what's a room where I don't have a first course yet? I think this one we're all set up. So this is the side dish. Yeah, that's a first course. This doesn't have a... do I want to wait for the vegetable stew or do I want to try something else? I don't have the crusty bread. I guess I could do the meringue. Let's make a floating island. Bake a pear meringue. Should have knock since that's the best way. That's fun. I believe knock would be. I think when they refer to knock, this is specifically the principle that permits no seal and no isolation. It thrusts us gleefully out of the safety of ignorant. Knock opens doors and unseams barriers. So I don't know if unseaming barriers is quite where we're going with that, but I like where you're going with this. All right, let's read Unhatched Hymns. So we need Sabazine for this one. We will take Inks of Revelation, I think is my bet. Well, Inks of Revelation or Oral Contemplations. We'll put the Faust in. And I'm 1 short. That's a real shame there. Okay. Well, I'm gonna take a chance, I think. Ooh. Yeah, this is gonna get a little scary, but I'm gonna add the Tryst so I can get another lantern. This doesn't leave me a whole lot for renewing elements of the soul, but... Okay, so I'm going to hang on to this particular whist here. Let's go... It is autumn when the leaves rustle. The silent landlady has served me apple pie with steamed cream in the window nook. Then you have definitive evidence that they're ripe or not. All right, carrots, tomatoes, marrows, and blessed onions, all the unsung heroes of the stew pot. My assistant and I will be prudent. All right, let's move on. So I've got a few different things that I'm juggling now, but we'll start with Solomon's preparation. Solomon Husher would take this every night without fail before sleep to close his ears to the sound of the waves, but on the 9th of January 1838, a heavy snow fell on Hush House. When the other residents dug themselves out, Husher was nowhere to be found. He had left a resignation letter and an undrunk measure of his preparation. So with that, really, we just need the winter memory. And if I can, I'd like to get the Earth sign again, but that's not a major priority right now. Down to the Grushians. This has boosted their aspects appropriately. Now, I'm also going to try and open up the Howling Chamber. It's not as exciting as the Blackened Yard, but I'm actually going to do the Howling Chamber because it's the more difficult of the two. So in this case, I'll use the yew blank, a wood sacred to the Malachite, who is also called the ring yew, but also the tree that the dead pass in the dark. Additional supplies. I can offer my assistant any suitable timber I have lying around. This will increase their aspects. They'll keep any of the wood that's left over. So from there, we're going to just keep talking with Mr. Kill. If I want, I can also give him an Eigen... Or no, I can't give him an Eigen drink, of course, because I just gave him Solomon's preparation. Yeah, we'll just leave it. We'll leave it to the memory. Cardia's Delights, the third volume of Abbot Jeffrey's hypothetical theological dialogues in the Socratic mode. If Janus were an hour, Cardia might be counted among his names, but the world has never turned in such a manner, so he is not. Jeffrey discusses the living signs which change their shape and whose flexibility is part of what makes it identifiable. He gives as an example the paradox of the hinge and draws comparisons with the names called twins, who would be considered hours beyond the church. He hints at the amethyst vessel, which can be sanctified by great signs in the presence of Knock. So we have a pattern for that. We have 2 great signs and scars. So I will put this in the patterns collection. So I'm also going to want to restore my Arab to level up great signs and great scars. We can move that to the... The Alloy of the White Rose, an account by Mistress Whiteflower of the alchemical techniques favored by the House of York, also identified with the Dawn Road. These techniques failed to bring them victory in the War of the Roads, but are not to be discounted. The author asserts proudly that the Dawn Road ends in the Second Dawn, and hints darkly that the downfall of the House of York was Grail sabotage. Mistress Whiteflower urges a history of Uzalt, where the Second Dawn may come to pass. She identifies xanthotic essence as Uzalt's predecessor. She explains that with sufficient lantern, bitter black salts can be purified to xanthotic essence, and iotic essence can be exalted to xanthotic essence. So another revelation for us, but now we will see whether or not we can... Okay, Duende, Right Sky's Weather, of course, and Ubisunt. Oh man, I don't think any of these are going to work. Okay. Our pear meringue. Let me just get the numbers and then I will read the description. So, 2 Grail, 1 Forge, 1 Moon, 1 Nectar, 1 Winter. That is pudding. Harvey Hattington, during his convalescence at the house, became obsessed with meringuing techniques. He was known to sneak down to the kitchens and interfere with the cooks in pursuit of this ideal. Alright, let's see. Looks like we're short of pudding here, so... Better now. Alright, let's take the time to bring back a core. Wait, why do I want to bring back... Oh, right, yeah, because of the Great Science, Great Scars. Actually, I'm going to bring back Arab for that. So again, unless I get... unless I had weather, or unless one of these winds up giving me something I wasn't expecting. I think it's Epiphany that gives me the lantern. I'm just going to have to live with it. And actually, I think one of these may give winter, which might... that might actually cause my Faust to become afflicted. But on the good news is we do have blackberries. Now, I don't remember if I actually put blackberries... No, I didn't actually put them down because they count as a first course. Berries promised by darkness. And they are heart and nectar. I think I probably did the same with rose hips. Okay, let it clutter up their shelves. So here we're just going to let Mr. Kill do his thing. Duende is a force, not a labor. A struggle, not a thought. Lorca. Nope, the mysteries have defeated me for now. You can always try again later. Okay, so yeah, there is winter here, so I think this is going to afflict me. Yep. But the good news is we got a hindsight for it. Malady fascination. Faust is the brightest part of the soul. Sometimes it can grow too bright for safety. A defeat when additional lantern is present makes Faust vulnerable to fascination. Oh, additional lantern. Interesting. Oh, and we got a regret. All right, well, we've got our choice. I think hindsight works a little bit better for me here, so... So this gives him 11. Exalt with a memory. I can discuss a memory with my assistant. This will use up the memory, but boost the assistant's abilities for the rest of the day. My inner light gutters, then flares. I am snared in a dangerous fascination. So we get past fascination with nectar, which is not the easiest one for me to get rid of, if I'm completely honest. So let's see what we can do. So drums and dances is probably my bet. No, sorry, insects and nectars. Right, but I can't put insects and nectars in. So I guess it is drums and dances after all. So if that's the case, I'm going to need at least one nectar memory. It's a little bit easier for the rest because I can, I could use dandelion wine as a comfort. I already thought I had a bottle open. So serve appropriately. Pour out. I want to get healing the Faust sooner rather than later. Pour it out. The question is, do I want to give up an element of the soul in order to be able to... Better now. Alright, let's earn a little money with whist. I could offer help with correspondence and arithmetic. There's no school in Brandkrug, and not everyone here knows their letters. I think I'm actually going to earn a nectar. You know what? We'll use the tryst for this. So if I get an impulse... I did have vegetables I forgot about. Okay, so the rest of this is going to be spent talking with Mr. Kill. What I'd like to try and do is get a Grail or Knock to be able to level this thing up. Now, if I have to, I can use the Occult Scrap. But we'll see if we can do better. Ooh. Decision time. Storm. Doesn't quite work for me. So I'm going to still keep talking with Mr. Kill. I think I'm going to use the whist to get myself a satisfaction. Alright, the Shaven Lock Tantra, also known as the one who has shaven his hair. This, the story goes, is the lore that even the shape-changing Vanaras rejected. The Tantra speaks glowingly of those who are prepared to abandon their old self to seek a new and higher self. It warns that once the change has truly begun past the third mark, a return to the old self is dangerous and painful. Whisper your secrets into the earth, burn them in fire, scatter them in the sea, still they will cling to your hair, the Tantra cautions. It provides an occult riddle that it claims is sometimes the answer to the riddle of the Hunter's Gate. Okay, so here I'm going to go to bed. We're not going to get this back in time. Inconvenient. I should have thought that through. Okay. Is there any credible way for me to get... I think I actually need to use my health on this. So, Dandelion Wine, Drums and Dances. And I think to get this up to level 5, I actually need to add health. So, lesson learned. And another storm. I guess we can wind up keeping the storm at this point, seeing as we're not going to be healing overnight. So yeah, today was a little bit of a weird one, but we will use the Arab and the satisfaction we're going to be getting to level up Great Signs and Great Scars. I'm then going to proceed as if I'm going to start committing more things to the Tree of Wisdoms. I'm not necessarily going to commit them, but I at least want to think about what my options are, and I figure this is a nice little intermediate way of getting the basics that I need down without like fully pulling out the spreadsheet and just planning this all out for 3 hours. So Fekri's Herbery, the early wisdom of Isen Fekri, at that point a traveling healer, much later Secretary Salvant of the Curia of the Isle. As a Scaptodon, Isen may consume only that which is found in the earth, so he's best with root lore. Isen identifies a pale seaweed found on the beaches of Cornwall as a useful source of rose and winter aspect. His tone here is a little guilty, perhaps because he's showing an interest in sea produce, which might be thought unwise for a Scaptodon, and perhaps because his proposal to name it Ava's Locks suggests a tiny crush on the Pale Lady of Brandkrug. Lovely to see you as always, Tikri. How are you doing tonight? Oopsies. Oh, I only needed one? Ah! Of course. This was a very silly day. And he gave us a hindsight too. Alright, let's open up the Howling Chamber. Great chunks have been torn from the walls of this room. The wind roams the place like a trapped beast, battering to and fro. Oh my goodness! Do you know what game you're playing yet? Oh, and here's our delivery from Cater and Hero. We'll wait until we have the... Actually, one thing I can do while we wait... Well, it's a little late now, but one thing I could have done was use Lantern to build a new crafting item. Curse of Strahd would be Ravenloft, I guess? You can tell I don't D&D. Unwrap, unbox, unleash. Alright, memories fade, assistance departs, but the soul is refreshed. So we're going to wait the 5.5 seconds to get this opened up. I also don't think it would hurt to talk with Mrs. Kill at this point, so it's a little bit of a shame to have to give up the core here, but Mrs. Kill's mood always improves when I drop by. Mrs. Kill stands ready to help. You always cheer me up, she says morosely. Another foggy day. My goodness. All right. Lots of things to do. So first of all, let's read the description of the room. The Gullscry Tower, Eel's room. Eels de Wolf inherited his father Valentine's madness and was found unfit to inherit. So his sister Ava held the Isle in his stead. When his fits of violence became uncontrollable, he was confined here in the tower where his sister would visit him 3 times a week until his escape, sometime in the late 1720s. Eels' ultimate fate remains unknown. So here we have a cage. Valentine de Wolf put his only friends in cages. Did he close the cage doors? This will accept cooperative sustenance and beverage. And we have the Stimfling. Ava de Wolf taught her father Valentine how to hatch these silvery little villains, but he never learned to like them. Moon and Scale, and I believe this is already cooperative. That's good though. I mean, it's funny that I do so little role playing, and yet we very frequently wind up talking about RPGs. So I know how much they mean to you, and of course I also know that they take a lot of your time. But I'm actually quite happy that you're keeping busy with this stuff. So It also makes me appreciate you stopping by the stream. I should also mention it's got the Restful Garden chair, and the remaining room is the Screaming Summit. Now, I should think a little bit about how I want to get up there, because technically I could do the same thing that I did before, only I wait for snow. How else would I do this? I'd either need to find a winter tool, or I would need to find winter food, and I don't think I'm willing to give up the pale marrow yet. Milk's already a drink, so that doesn't really count. Although I guess maybe one of the meringues? I don't know. Something for me to think about a little bit later. Okay, so we've got some copper wire. I'm sure I had a good reason for getting this. I just don't remember what it was. Oh, there's the vegetables I thought I didn't have. More sugar. A quire of paper. So I think one of these is a replacement. Pulverized grains, bread's precursor. I'm really abusing this as an overflow. And lots and lots and lots of butter. All right, this definitely gives me stuff to work with. So let's get started with healing my Faust. Oh, before I do that, sorry, I know we've talked about Dredge before and I hadn't seen much of it. Have you heard about the new DLC they released? I have not. You can definitely feel free to enlighten me. I will mention my tea is running low, and the last couple of times I've said I wanted to get tea, I pretty much get to the end of the stream and I've not yet taken it. So I might get a little more strict on giving myself a break, but before I do that, I'm actually going to get a little bit of homework done on this one. So skill draft, I'll call this. And what I'm going to do is going to be a little annoying at the start just because I need to find the relevant desks. But I'm actually going to divide my, I'm going to divide the skills that I have into sort of two piles. So we've got Ragged Crossroads, which we will add in here. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So I've got a 6 pile. So Ragged Crossroads. I'm pretty sure I just got a... Oh. Big oil rig and fishing up even weirder creature. Ooh, that sounds good. I know people have compared Dredge to Sunless Sea, and I'm taking that as a favorable comparison. But the thing is I've never played Sunless Sea to completion. I know that's heresy to admit, but I was actually one of those people who initially bounced off the game because it was it failed me really quick, and I wasn't quite ready for that. So it took me a while to warm up to it. I actually still feel very nervous about my my ship because I worked so hard to get it. But I feel like I should start a new playthrough and go through it. But yeah, it seems like an interesting one. I think I get the impression you think quite highly of it, Kieran. I don't think I've ever directly asked you, but I get the impression that you're a fan. Okay, so this one also has 6. So what I'm doing here, I'm working out kind of which skills I'm willing to put a little bit of, a little more effort into committing to the Tree of Wisdom. So here's a good example of one that I wouldn't. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that means I've got one more thing that I can get out of this. And so all things being equal, this makes a little more sense to keep for a higher branch on the Tree of Wisdoms. Now, obviously, you might want to select based on what those specific skills gives you. I'll actually give you an example of one where that would be a particularly good idea. But if you don't know what the recipes give you, the ones that give you the most probably make the most sense to give higher levels. Although even then, like something like Inks of Revelation, you eventually learn that you need Rose for that particular one, so Rose isn't part of the skill. But again, short of direct knowledge of what you need, being able to say, okay, this thing gives me more, as a result, maybe I should be willing to put it higher up in the tree works a little bit better. You've 100%ed the game so far, waiting on Payday to get the DLC. All right, so I guess you give that a 5 out of 10 then. Okay, strings and songs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm also going to give some examples of ones where I'm going to cheat a little bit on this rule because I know what they give me and I like them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Five out of 10 couldn't play enough. Good answer. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think it... Oh, is that 8? It is 8. Glass blowing and vessel crafting. Just put anything in there. No, I think that's another 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. Ten. Huh. The one drawback for these is that there's no like universal place for me to to craft all this stuff. Okay, Wolf Stories is a good old-fashioned 6. Okay, Sea Stories. Also 6. Hill and Hollow. 5. Rhyme and Remembrance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Index Gnome, how are you doing? I feel like it's been a while. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Maybe it's because I saw you in Sweeps' channel. It's thrown off my calibrations. Anyways, it's always good to see you. Oh yeah, no, sorry, I should probably be careful when I say stuff like that. That is not a, where you been, man? That is more, very nice to see you. I feel like I haven't said hi, I hope you're doing well. Sweeps the Pillow Clean? Am I getting... I'm sorry, Index, no, I thought I'd seen you in Sweeps the Pillow Clean. The fact that you're asking that question, I have a feeling that I've mistaken you for a different... The other Index Gnome I know. I'm sorry. I'm totally out. No. You wouldn't. I am thinking of somebody entirely different. I apologize. Yeah. It's been a night. There's another viewer with similar interests, and for some reason, in my brain, I cross the wires. You are definitely not. You're definitely not the same person. Sorry, like I said, you might have been, if dragged around by a raid or two. I mean, you might have seen Sweeps the Pillows Clean. I know she does do. I know she does do Book of Hours, but my original reason for saying that is not there. I actually honestly think it's probably just the same color name. I apologize. This is just me being an idiot. But no, it was which is funny. I did not mistake you for Cured Charlie. But no, this was just me. I'm sort of engaging with you with a clear idea of who Index Gnome is, while simultaneously also thinking you are the second person who I originally met through Sweeps the Pillow Clean's channel. And it only took you asking the question for me to say, these are two different people. So yeah, like I said, I'm being an idiot right now. I'm a happy idiot. Ignorance is bliss, but I have this terrible... I'm embarrassed by a case of mistaken identity. All right, Great Signs and Great Scars. Sights and Sensations. Unfortunately, and you've come in at a time when I am doing a bit of homework, so this will not be the most stimulating material. It'd be nice to change identity now and then. Things you could... Are we going, is this a Ring of Gaiji situation? Are you going to seduce the queen and take over the kingdom? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And Marine Lapidary. Okay, door and wall. Not the queen of my country for sure. You do have standards. I think it was Denmark. I know we've talked about this before, but I think it was Denmark? And Kirt says you guys have international variations of that saying, someone who's just all around happy and has no cares. I feel like there are phrases. Swede living in I'm sorry. Norway, Denmark. They're the exact same, aren't they? I'm sure if you say that to citizens, they'll feel exactly like that. I think it's probably the tax talk that just makes me assume. Anyways, one of these days I will remember. Carefree. Usually the ones that I've heard, maybe this just says something about North Americans. I feel like they tend to be a little bit more overtly mean. So like, a few fries short of a Happy Meal or something like that. But no, actually, I think that's the first I've heard happy as Larry. Anyway, sorry. I was going to try and explain what I'm doing here. So for those of you that are just coming in, we're going to commit things to the Tree of Wisdoms, not immediately, but like not before too long. So what I'm doing right now is I'm working out a few candidates that I might be willing to put in first. And basically, even if you don't know all the recipes, you can get an idea of how many recipes you can craft with a given skill. So this is a very common one that you'll see with 6 different recipes. Now, this is fine, especially because a number of these, even if there are 6, they wind up giving you very valuable things. But in this case here, the more likely candidates for early placement in the Tree of Wisdoms would be ones that give me fewer options in terms of crafting. Because obviously, if you can build lots and lots of things from one skill, it makes sense to have higher levels in it. Now, of course, the thing is that you don't always craft things with the primary skills, which kind of complicates it a little bit. But right now, these are just some basic heuristics for me to make some progress on the Tree of Wisdoms. Favorite word in Swedish for describing someone is skogstokig. You got to tell me what that means, Index. I'm very curious. And Kieran says, I think maybe the Northern English accent makes half of the saying. I'm trying to think. I'm also trying to remember, there's like a Glasgow tea shop or something like that. Isn't it like Mulkin One or something like that? Anyways, like if you say it with a Glaswegian accent, it sounds exactly like a beverage order. But when you like see it written out, especially if you're North American, it's like, what the hell do they serve here? I wish I remembered the name of the chain, but Yorkshire coal miner is probably the most recognized. Don't. I need to. I should just look this up online. Mind you, I struggle with the pronunciation symbols on like Wikipedia and stuff like that, so I don't know if that would. Okay, I'm actually really curious now. Yeah, here we go. Forest Crazy. Ooh, Forest Crazy is a good one, especially given moth and the wood in this one. All right. That's the name of the a traditional coffee shop based in Glasgow. We serve breakfast, lunch, and afternoon takeaway. Anyway, sorry. That was really, really sticking with me. Desires and dissolutions to the... Oops. Okay, Pearl and Tide, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Purifications and exaltations. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Stone Stories, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Leaves and Thorns, takes Grail. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Surgeries and exsanguinations. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Serpents and Venoms. Back down to Ava's desk. 6. Coil and Chasm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. ingredients and precursors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Most of them will be 6. Skogstokik is likely used for one of two things. Someone that is completely crazy, like dancing naked in the forest under the moonlight kind, so moth kind. Or someone boiling an... That's actually really interesting that those are some of the... when I learn new terms, those are actually some of my favorites to learn. The ones that wind up having these sort of double meanings. So actually, I just want to take a second here and mention, so Edict's Martial is a really good example of something that, even though it's 6, I wouldn't necessarily commit to the Tree of Wisdoms at that level, because the ability to get the Wormwood Dream from the 10 Moon is actually quite strong for that. So in fact, I'm mildly tempted here, if I could do something like this. If I could somehow get another 3 moon to work with, I would be tempted to... to make that. Anyway, we won't worry about that now. Putrefactions and calcinations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sharps. Okay, that's 5. So here's, I don't think this is fully a contronym, but without looking online, because I'm going to do that, does anybody here want to guess the meaning of fulsome? Three, 4, 5, 6, 7. Fulsome. So this has come up a couple. Actually, so a friend from my hometown actually reached out. So very often, what I'll hear. So one of the reasons I mention this actually is that at work, a lot of people use fulsome quite a bit. Here I'm going to use the Oxford English Dictionary because, damn it, we have standards here. But here are all the definitions that are present in it. So starting from 1325 to present, 1a, characterized by being full of some commodity or material, abundant, plentiful, providing a copious supply, rich, In later use, also complete and comprehensive. Now, I've always kind of objected to the complete and comprehensive because that doesn't really seem to be the use of the word. Like, again, obviously language changes and so on and so forth. But then we get to some of these other examples. And I've actually seen there was an Atlantic article recently that used fulsome in one of these later ways. So 1b, chiefly a person or part of the body, full and plump, fleshy, corpulent, oversized, overfed. In later use, full-figured, voluptuous, also in extended use. Revived in the 20th century. Again, presumably... Oh. I know what it means. Friends uniting to live spontaneous outbursts of mirth and exuberance. This reminds me of a certain period in U.S. politics where everybody kept doing acrostics in their legislation. Now, 2a is where it gets fun. Offending against accepted standards of morality or taste, morally reprehensible, obnoxious, deplorable. Sexually unrestrained, unchaste, lascivious body. Unfortunately, that is obsolete as of 1721, but when my friend, who is of the opposite sex and certainly quite attractive, says that she'll give me a more fulsome reply, it's very difficult not to let a wintry smile just come on over one's face. 3a, wearisome, again obsolete, from excess repetition, tedious. Much of my explanations on this channel, one might say, are fulsome. Of food, coarse, heavy, filling, difficult to digest, cloying, also in figurative contexts. 3c, sickening, nauseating in taste, sickly sweet, now rare. 4a, physically disgusting, filthy, dirty, foul, loathsome. Hey, Daily Daybreak, good to see you again. I don't think I've seen you online since you last stopped by, but I was hoping to hear more about your Yu-Gi-Oh idea that you were running with. For those of you who don't know, for those of you that do not know Daily Daybreak, wonderful broadcaster who I last saw doing Morrowind, but I have a feeling with the arrival of the Rift of the Necrodancer, or reintroduction of the Rift of the Necrodancer demo, I have a feeling might be playing a little bit of that. Although, far be it for me to dictate what is played on Daily Stream. In any case, wonderful broadcaster, somebody I'm always happy to see inside of chat. Somebody who's also a lot of fun to hang out with, either on my side or theirs. 5, of language or behavior or a person with regard to this. 5a, offensive or objectionable owing to excess or lack of moderation, especially excessively effusive or complimentary, too lavish or overdone. So this would be the context in which that Atlantic article put it out. 5b, unrestrained, exuberant, effusive, lavish, wholehearted. And then finally there is a noun with that which is fulsome, fulsomeness. But yeah, needless to say, definition 2b, sexually unrestrained, unchaste, lascivious body. That is the first use of it that I had ever seen, because I believe there is a actually, it's in here. A certain epigram which is to be ascribed to him is more fulsome than any passage I have met in our poet. So this was a description of Ovid and sort of the idea that Augustus, who exiled him, the reason for this was apparently due to his indecent poetry. But I believe there is a Catullus poem that talks about the emperor, despite being sort of this, having these very high moral standards, certainly was in the muck with the best of them. And so in the case of so I'm a big Ovid fan, so that quote is effectively where I first learned of fulsome. So yeah, needless to say, when all my coworkers are saying that they'll, more fulsome description or whatever, I'm like, I wonder how many things we send to the UK that have some people, laughing when they give it a read. So people were really just using fulsome for anything, huh? Well, I mean, I'm not upset when somebody sends me a text saying they'll give me a fulsome reply. Gets my hopes up. Delude says, I've been overhauling my stream setup since I got a new... Oh, I didn't know that you got a new computer. I hope you enjoy it. And yes, the demo is... let me just double check to see where it is right now. And I do apologize. I know we kind of went on hold on Book of Hours, but let's see where we're at here. Rift of the Necrodancer demo is back. Hey Necrodancer, it's time for Steam Rhythm Fest. So you know what that means. The demo's back, and it's got its very own Steam page this time. The content of the demo is the same as the demo from Clayfest back in June, but we'll have more content to share in the coming months. Stay tuned, and good luck on the leadership boards until then. Okay, so Sacralamea I wrote down already. Let's slouch on to Bethlehem. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, Magaphine Mysteries. Transformations and Liberations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right. Resurgences and Emergences. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, I got to remember for things like Rites of the Roots, chances are some of that is going to come from being able to put honey in more than one spot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or sorry, there being more than one honey to put in the spot. So good to hear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For those of you that haven't played it, by the way, I highly recommend checking out the Rift of the Necrodancer demo. Lord Gloom, how you doing? I'm going to give you a shout out in just a minute, but I've been really slow in getting this done. I said I was going to be strict with my tea times, and I got chatting during while taking this inventory. But let me ask you, do you know what fulsome means? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Spurs and feathers. Rural contemplations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Sky Stories. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You Googled it during the combo. Yeah, I was really just coming up with an excuse to go back down that rabbit hole. I'm glad to preach the gospel of Folsom, though. Let me take a quick second here. So Lord Gloom, I've not actually seen online. I always feel so insincere to shout out people like Delude and Lord Gloom when I haven't caught one of their streams recently, but that's certainly not for certainly not because I'm avoiding the streams. I'm actually very much looking forward to being able to watch them again. The Folsom Gospel sounds very Grail, doesn't it? But Lord Gloom I've seen do a little bit of everything. Actually, I don't know if you've played Rift of the Necrodancer yet, Lord Gloom, but that feels like one you might enjoy as well. But I did find Lord Gloom through Cobalt Core, which was published by Brace Yourself Publishing. But somebody does everything from live magic to Escape from Tarkov, and I feel like you I feel like you said that you were going to be doing a lot of Tarkov in the foreseeable future. You've played... that was Cadence of Hyrule. And you've been off-stream playing Dungeons and Degenerate Gamblers. Tarkov Wipe is happening tomorrow. Yeah. I actually haven't played Cadence of Hyrule yet because I only recently became a Switch owner, and I'm catching up on all the stuff that I've missed out on, like the classic Nintendo and Game Boy and Sega games, as well as is it Breath of the Wild and Smash. So I have a lot of stuff to catch up on. Hopefully before they release a new Edicts Inviolable. Hopefully before they release a new console. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Snow Stories. Watchman's Paradoxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tradiz Mahira. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Insects and Nectars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Index has said, Lord Gloom says Fire Emblem and Monster Hunter games are what you play the most on Switch. That's going to be something I add to the list. And Index says, I started a new project this month. I usually pick a new language to learn every 3 to 4 years. This time you decided to create your own language. Interesting. I actually ran into something kind of interesting. I'm still struggling to learn French, so I'm definitely don't have a mind for languages, but I did encounter I think it's like a linguistics Olympiad or something like that. You have to kind of solve languages with, it was something that was kind of lying around at work. And I was quite fascinated by that. But I mean, I'm sure most fantasy people are quite fond with the idea of creating their own language, but that's a neat one. I actually, partly because of this and partly because I needed to, I was reading Fasti, mostly because of Book of Hours, and unfortunately I bought it used, and my paperback, like, the cover didn't fully fall off, but like, you know, the part where the spine is sort of glued, that just was completely undone. So essentially the cover sort of just flopped off. And it's like, it's a shame to, so if you keep it like that, chances are your book's not going to last as long because it's just too easy to like have something ripped off, and it's a little inconvenient when you're trying to read. It's a perfectly fine book. Like, you really don't want to lose something like that. So I wound up sort of taking a look around, is like, what kind of glue would I use to put it in? Because, like, you know, if you use something like crazy glue, it's going to, you know, it's going to make like a creaking noise every time you open it. And it turns out also, so this eventually led me to finding out about bookbinding, and there's a whole community built around sort of bookbinding and sharing techniques and so on and so forth. So the recommendation was acid-free PVA glue, which it took a little while to find, but I did get some from a store. And anyway, it worked great. But on the note of sort of taking up new hobbies and that, I'm mildly curious, and I want to see, like, now that I've got that glue, is there sort of the next step that I can take in terms of, you know, going down that path? I'm also not good at pronouncing it, but I also learned about, what is it? Anthropodermic bibliogeny. Or bibliogony? Anyways. It's exactly what it sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for insects and nectars. You thought you knew what a noun and a verb was. That was until you started to make your own language and realized how a small rule in grammar can have massive impact on the rest of the language. Sounds like your next step is programming language design. I suppose that's a little more rigid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Edix liminal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Preliminal meter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Thanks for revelation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now this is an example of a deceptive 8. Because even though I can level up the lantern and moth parts of this, we know that I think one of these would be at least nectar or sky, or possibly both, and that one of these is rose. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't have a 9 yet, huh? Horns and ivories. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Last but not least, quenchings and quellings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I know we took a little bit of, we took some time on that. I'm not necessarily going to implement all of this right now, but it does. What this does mean is, as I start adding some more, skills to the list, I'm just going to augment that list as I go by. And essentially, my ideal here would be, unless I have a good reason for keeping those level 5s, those are going to be the first ones that go into the Tree of Wisdoms. And then once those are done, we'll start putting the level 6s in. There's going to be a couple of other conditions that I keep for the Tree of Wisdoms, but that's the general idea that I have in terms of how I'm going to move this this stuff around. Anyways, I'm okay with just making your own game and the occasional simple game engine. No programming languages for me. I was kind of curious about it, so I got it's Programming Language Pragmatics by Michael Scott, but it is a tome, so I'm definitely going to need to spend some time with that one. But I kind of got bit by the bug of like reading about Intercal, and then I did Bfunge 93, and then I read about Malbolge, and that seemed like just the most insane thing that I'd ever seen. But I did have some fun like implementing Bfunge, and because I basically kind of got hooked, I'm like, okay, I'm not saying this is going to be my life's work, but I'm curious enough that I want to play around and maybe understand a little bit more about what's going on with these. Anyways, I'm sorry for the time that I took on the skills. I'm going to take a small break just to refill my tea and stretch, and otherwise just get myself give my head and shake the Etch-a-Sketch a little bit, so I'm not confusing Index Gnome for one of the viewers from Sweeps' channel. If you've been here since the start, I'd also encourage you maybe to get up and have a small stretch yourself. But when we return, we may or may not put something into the Tree of Wisdoms, but we're definitely going to make some progress through Hush House. We'll open up the Dim Hall. We'll probably open up the Blackened Yard before the end of the night, and I will start thinking about maybe what some of our next steps will be for either languages or kind of other minor goals. All of that, though, will be handled after a word from our sponsors. All right, thank you everybody for your patience. We're back. So let's take a quick minute here and talk about what that effort that I just took got us. So we haven't gone too far down the path yet, but the end result of all of this is eventually going to be a set of like a path through the. Let me just make sure I've got this. Okay, this is definitely not the path that I wanted to take. Hang on. Yeah, here we go. So the path that I was going to take was Horamakastri 1 through 9, Bossk 1 through 9, Hushery 1 through 9, Nyctodromy 4 through 9, Ithistry Birdsong, Preservation, Skolakosophy 5 through 9, and then Illumination 7 through 9, and then on top of that, whatever remaining elements of the, or whatever would get me the elements of the soul that I wanted. On top of that, I'm going to open up another spreadsheet that I had for my languages. So I was picking between Illumination and Preservation for Foston Core. Now the nice thing about this is that for both Illumination and Preservation, the essential skills there start at level 5, so I'm not really making any permanent decisions for either one of those. So what I really need to be thinking about right now, the skills that are going to unlock me, or unlock the other branches. So Horamakastri 1 through 3. Actually, I'm going to make a couple notes along these lines. Madad. Thank you very much for your resubscription. Hello, you've been away for so long. Now you've got to binge Book of Hours from episode 180. Yeah, well, there's lots of content there. We are going to be getting near the end, actually, but I think you already know that I'm playing the House of Light early beta. But if not, this is actually some material that you won't see in the videos, but you will get to see in the you will get to see on the VODs. So I hope that puts a smile to your face. Sorry, we're not done with the Tree of Wisdoms yet. So Horamakastri will open up, actually, for probably I should move up to 5, because then that opens up Ithistry. From there, we would want to probably Bossk at that point. So in terms of what Bossk unlocks, that would be 2, 3, and 4. From there, I know we were doing a bit of a weird path on this one. So Hushery 1 through 9. Yeah, this one actually gets kind of funny. So this would be one where we go from 2 to 6. No worries. If you were here for a few minutes before my break, you would have seen a lot of derailing on my part. So I don't think you need to apologize for that. I'm just very happy to see you. I'm happy you're still thinking of the stream, and I hope you. So I will confess for the YouTube videos, it's actually been a little bit of a challenge to kind of keep some momentum going on those because I'm looking for Hyksos. But there are other things for me to do in the house. So I've done my best, let's say. But there's a couple ways that we can get a big finale. So, and I don't want to force it, but I can if I have to. So what I'm looking at right now, because I want to get Horamakastri 2 through 5, Bossk 2 through 4, and Hushery 2 through 6. Right now, Horamakastri, Bossk, and Hushery are the 3 skills I'm most interested in. So for Hill and Hollow, this has got Birdsong and Preservation, so even though that's a level 5 skill, that's not necessarily one that I want to... that's one that I won't quite put the same emphasis on. It's also worth mentioning here that this is effective against infestations. So this is one that there may be other reasons why I want to level that up, all things being equal. Sharps. In this case, this is a Hushery and a Skolakosophy. So Sharps is actually a good example of something that would be a decent candidate for me to seed in Hushery here. Something's got to go at level 2, so Sharps would be a good candidate for that. I'm actually going to put a quick note here. H. It's also worth noting that this won't get me an element of the soul that I don't already have, but by opening up Nyctodromy and eventually Skolakosophy, then we're going to be getting the... Excuse me. Then we're going to be getting the opportunity to open up some Shapt. So we have a potential candidate with with Sharps. Now Megaphene Mysteries is another one that potentially fixes contaminations for us. This one also goes to Hushery. So again, as a 5, maybe, as something that cures infestations, or well, in this case, corruption, something I might be a little more reluctant to put later on. Thank you, Kieran. Sorry, I know it's never fun to hear somebody blast straight into a mic. I try to go off mic, but it doesn't always. I don't think it muffles the sound too much. Okay, and then in terms of some of the other ones that I'm a little less willing to give up, I want to put Edict's Marshal nice and high in the list. Because that gets me the Wormwood Dream and such. So to be honest, I don't have any candidates where I'm really saying like I absolutely have to put that into the Tree of Wisdoms right now. Sharps is a good candidate, but not it's not the last word yet. What I am going to do is finally heal my fascination. So cure my malady. You have supplied enough nectar. We're getting Mrs. Kill in. That's through the core. We'll restore that at the Sweet Bones. I do want to do some more crafting. But let's get some... Well, I'm going to get a few things done. So let's say we'll use the Crate of Supplies. Or open the Crate of Supplies. So something handy. Crack open the container. Delight in your discovery. I'll take 1 tryst with the Baronial Period book. And then I'll use the metal for the other one. So this book was probably written around the time of Hush House's Baronial Period, roughly the 1500s to 1700s. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. Another question that would be good for me to look at would be with Great Signs and Great Scars. So this also takes Hushery. This also takes Horamakastri. So the question here would be, does Great Signs and Great Scars give me something that I want to preserve? Or is this the sort of thing that I would be willing to say, okay, let's give up Great Signs and Great Scars. Let's use that to level up Horamakastri or Hushery. And then we'll take this Great Signs and Great Scars and we'll put it towards some other skill, possibly along the line of Horamakastri. So what would be a good example of that? Doran Wall could take advantage of the level up. But yeah, again, it's one of these things. I don't need to. We're early enough in autumn that I don't need to make any hard decisions on that now. But I should at least be. I should be thinking about this long term. As for the next step, though, I think we just wait to talk with Mrs. Kill. I guess my other alternative is we can try reading Unhatched Hymns. Well, no, we can't because I don't have my lantern. What about the Iron Books? That's an 8 edge. Hard to say. I can really get 3, 5, 7. I can get 7. I think we'll wait for Hale on this one. Collected Hush House Lectures is kind of tempting. But all things being equal, I think I'd like to use the Tryst to try and earn myself a storm. On that note, actually, so if I were to take the Fog, combine that with a Tryst, add Edict's Marshal, I think we have options here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my Whist to get a Confounding Parable first. Oop. 26 Enticements, 7 Torments. This is definitely one that we can't read right away, but I can afford it. Mrs. Gill stands ready to help. You always cheer me up, she says morosely. As somber as autumn, as kind as autumn, she also likes her beer. So we're going to use her to open up one of the easier rooms in the house. It's a 8 Grail. So we'll start by talking with her about the Arab. My pride will find an echo in theirs, boosts Grail and Edge. And then for cooking, I think we'll actually just cook the sack of vegetables in this case. Make a vegetable stew. I can move this over here. We don't have the option of resting in bed because I'm curing my Faust, but again, it's not a real hardship. We kind of know what we're doing for today, so... Oh, I did say I was going to do another thing, though. No, I was after the... after I read the other line. I like this one. Opus Magnum Ceruleum. Ambrose Westcott used to render the title of this venerable and anonymous work mockingly as The Big Blue Business. A kinder translation would be The Great Work of Azure. I think some of my favorite revelations in this game, just in terms of character, are little details like, you know, so-and-so had a grudge against such and such, or... you know, on the deceitful okay, well, this book, those indignities perpetrated by the deceitful fraternity of Obliviates. It's not clear whether CROD, who was identified only by his initials, was in fact an initiate of the Obliviate Order of Immortal Adepts. He wrote in the 16th century after the order, if he is to be believed, had passed the height of its power. This is actually a good one because we can probably read this and get a small level up for Ragged Crossroads. I'm going to stick that in my inventory. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes just the personality that's revealed in some of the books is fun. Okay, eagerly we anticipate our work. We might as well give her the spice scales as well. Now, I don't think I restored the tea. Oh, no, we've got tea here. Suppose I could also use the pears. Well, I would need to pick the pears first. Okay, let's see where we're at. The Other Line, one of Samuel Savage's more thoughtful works, an allegorical play about the city Clarity, a city that is also a book, and the sentences which inhabit it. The Lord's Proverbial and the Lord's Disquisitional war in the streets of Clarity, while the punctuants get drunk on ink and supply the jokes, though by Savage's usual standards there aren't very many jokes. The final act sees the Lord's Proverbial unsealing the city Clarity's gate to expel the population into the unknown. The formula that they use for the unsealing is a real one. It can be used with knock and preliminal meter to create a gate sign of power. Confounding Parable. And we've opened it up for Silverwire. I don't think I've ever seen Silverwire before. The Meniscates medal. All right. So I've got my Confounding Parable now. So the first thing that I want to do is get myself a wound. So we're one... or nope, I thought we were one short, but I was wrong. So this is all an effort to get my Wormwood Dream in the long run. This tool has boosted their aspects appropriately. So just a reminder here, we're trying to get Mrs. Kill up to level 8. So the options that I have with her right now, we've already used, we've used Collaboration, we've used Tool. So of the things that we can use a beverage, we can use Fabric and Fiber, we can use a memory, we can use Sustenance. So all things being equal, I'd love to be able to use one of the pears and a good memory. But again, it depends on how the day goes. So right now we're just going to talk and see if we can get the memory from her. Alright, a vegetable stew, main course. Unexciting, but also unobjectionable. So I'm just going to add this to my spreadsheet. Where is the... Too many pies. Oh, there it is. Vegetable stew. Main course, heart, nectar, and rose. I don't know how many more rooms I have that... Yeah, Stargazy's main course. We've got the jugged pheasant already. Yeah, we've got too many main courses now. I got nowhere to put this. I don't quite know how this sugar got here, but... Okay, so 2 main courses. Guess we can replace the milk that we used before. Okay, cuckoo honey. Where do I want to put that? I guess I can fit it here now. Everything must have its place. Okay, so we are better now with the core. I'm trying to remember what I was going to do with that, though. It might have been make a witching tisane of some kind. Oh wait, no, I remember. There wasn't a specific order for this. I was just trying to restore it because of Mrs. Kill. I think I'm going to use my whisk to make a little bit of money in between, and then we can restore other things. I think now, because so much of the stuff I want to make requires dough, let me just see. So creamed sugar... yeah, so I don't know the recipe for cream sugar. Oh, I should know the recipe for dough. Oh no, I do have it. Cream sugar I haven't done yet. Pear pie I haven't done yet. Oh yeah, sorry, before I do that, I should use the core to get the pears. And in fact, in autumn I should probably be like harvesting quite a bit in terms of vegetables and pears and all of that, because that'll need to last me for a couple of seasons. With that in mind, actually, I'm going to use the fet here. I know I'm going to have to restore an element of the soul so that I can get the Grail memory. There tisn't can be no tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. Mrs. Kill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. There might be something I can do with all this storm and solace. Move gingerly while the pain lasts. The wound is visible, the pain is not. So this is me taking advantage of the fog and the fact that I don't have that much to do right now. So we take the Tryst. Nope, we got to do this at the Nocturnary, I think. So Tryst, Fog, Edicts Martial. We're at 7 of the 9 that I need. Right, this isn't an omen. This is, but it doesn't do the trick. Okay, I can use a U-blank. I think I'm going to use a Tryst instead. It is autumn when the leaves rustle. The silent landlady has served me apple pie with steamed cream in the window nook. Oh, beautiful. Okay, so Mrs. Kill can get the satisfaction. Exalt with a memory. I can discuss a memory with my assistant. This will use up the memory, but boost the assistant's abilities for the rest of the day. And then presumably the pears sort of send her over the edge. And then tomorrow we can think about reading those indignities perpetrated by the deceitful fraternity of Obliviates. And this is a 14, so... Fragrant pears, soft in the hand. I can offer my assistants something to eat. This will increase their aspects. It's also just friendly. So yeah, I'm doing this much later than I was expecting, but this will work. Hey, apples! Basket of apples, notoriously hard to take just one bite. So I believe this will give me some more recipes that I can work with. Although I think these are a bit difficult to store. Sure. Alright, so this does count as an ingredient. Grail, heart, and nectar. Timepiece recovery. So yeah, we paid quite a bit to get that back, but the key here is that we have it. We don't need to worry about my Faust anymore. All right, Oriflammes thanks you for your custom, so we'll just slide that in the 14 slot. And we do have the opportunity to make some money with the Whist if I want. And I think I will. I don't know if there's a lot that I can do with the Whist otherwise, so we'll just take advantage of that. Now, Noctonary. 2 elements, the Soul, Edict's Martial, Fog, Old Wound, Craft a Wormwood Dream, recall a forgotten crime of Moon and Winter. Edict's Martial with Scholar level Moon plus a memory creates a Wormwood Dream. Now this will give us several opportunities because it is a very strong Winter and very strong Moon text. The sustenance has boosted their aspects appropriately. So we'll just keep talking with Mrs. Kill because we can. We do have a Storm already, but it's, there may be something that I want to hang on to more. Usually it's if it's related to one of the things that I want to study. Although in the case of most of the books that I read, kind of have what I need. There it is in Camino Tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. So this would be good if I wanted to level up something with great signs and great scars. Don't really have much of an opportunity to do that right now, though, so I think I'm just gonna take it easy. Cash in my Wormwood Dream, maybe get a couple more memories from Mrs. Kill, and make some money at the Sweet Bones for the end of the day. I think we get 2 more chats with Mrs. Kill before we run out. Let's hope it is equally possible to forget this again. So, aha! Actually, I'm kind of curious what that is, but... There was something mentioned in one of the posts in terms of secrets. And that got me hunting, so there's a couple of places in the... This was actually also mentioned in patch notes, but I kind of forgot about them. But there are a few secrets in the house that are not secrets of the house. And that's one of the ones I didn't find. So if anyone wants, I can read that, but maybe we'll want to keep it mysterious. Alright. The dim hall. The walls are hung with weapons. As I essay the threshold, a whisper troubles the still air, and a pair of wall-hung swords Glints menacingly. More of Van Loren's protections. They seem much stronger on the seaward side than the landward side of the house. One might begin to wonder if they were intended to protect against outsiders at all. If you can just give me a second, I just smudged my glasses, so I'm going to be back in a second. I don't have my case with me, but I do have a little cleaner, so I'll be back in just a sec. The regret might have been nice for the for one of the books, but I can live without. I think the storm makes the most sense to keep, so. Memories fade, assistance departs, but the soul is refreshed. So, let's get some priorities dealt with. We'll get one... I think what I'll do is I have 2 health and 1 core, so let's gather some pears. Gather some vegetables. The Arab can cook, so as I look through the list... So we want a sea pie, which is going to require some dough. In fact, making a whole bunch of dough seems like a good idea here. So flour, butter, and a bowl. It's surplus butter somewhere. Thought I put them somewhere here, but... Okay, I should probably wait for the weather, but we are going to talk with Mr. Kill no matter what. Mr. Kill can always spare a few hours to help a friend. Okay, rainy day. May not be a bad idea for me to see what's up. 3 flowers hath the tree, gives me leaves and thorns, which I already have. So, unless I've got a big nectar bug... Well, Durasha quercum. So realistically, this gets me 5... The only thing is it gets me rights of the roots, which I already have enough of. Although rights of the roots, I think, was one of those ones I was going to level up higher, so maybe we do go for this one. I need to get my health back, though. I think in this case... so there's a couple things I'm going to do. First, with my Tryst, I'm going to get a confounding parable. I'll then get an earth sign. Deceitful Indignities seems like a good one to do. So that leaves me a Fet Metal and a Faust. Fet will go on the moor. So then it's just Metal and Faust. Mr. Kill can always spare a few hours to help a friend. So to begin with, we're going to talk with him about whist. We'll restore our existing whist at the Sweet Bones. It was autumn when the leaves rustled. The silent landlady has served me apple pie with steamed cream in the window nook. Not quite sure what I want to do with the Metal and the Faust quite yet, but let's see what we get in here. The Dueling Hall. In baronial times, this was a ballroom, but in the 19th century, during Brulot's time as librarian, a dyad of eternally dueling edgelong agreed to stay at Hush House for a year and a day to allow Natalia to study them, if she satisfied certain conditions. A properly equipped space was one of those conditions. Ultimately, the business turned out to be a trap or a trick played by one or both of the dyad, and they left after only a single battle. Their names are recorded as Mistress Dearday and Father Torg. So Natalia Brulot, this bust is cast in iron. Niche with a plaque, who is denied victory though never defeated. My assistant and I will be prudent. Alright, let's give him another Solomon's Preparation. Nothing for me to directly work with right now in this room. We'll just move straight on to the Blackened Yard, unless I have a clever idea in terms of the Screaming, how to handle the Screaming Summit, but I don't, so I won't. An ingredient for a higher purpose. Okay. Couple things I want to do here. First of all, I'm gonna guess that the apples will be good for a few different recipes. Okay, apple pie is probably the least surprising of the options. Let's see what else we can do. So I suppose, well, I would need to, I guess I would need to make another meringue if I wanted to try much else. I think some of these other ones are probably just going to be... Yeah, I don't think I actually have as many options as I thought, unless... Well, that's fine, actually. I guess the question is... Yeah, I'm still making the call that I want. Like, I want to use my health to try and read the Nectar book, but just feels like I should be doing more. Okay, The Locksmith's Dream, Portions and Proportions. The second volume of Teresa Galmier's examination of parallels in the mystic dreams of artisans. The frontispiece has been slashed with a razor. In this volume, Galmier records fewer dreams and explicates more on her own elaborate theories. We see this again and again. What is below can't escape what is above. The finest artisans all dream of the white door in the end. I'm no artisan, only a scholar. I think there's a secret that all these artisans know, but I think that secret is only half the story. Wrapped in the King, detailed accounts of secret bacchanals and ecstatic dances observed in necropolises and graveyards in southern Europe, in Egypt, and in Anatolia. The author is a self-confessed ghoul, an eater of buried flesh. He claims to have witnessed the dances while at his feasting. The dances draw from the traditions of the mysteries, of the cults of Isis and Sybil, but include both symbolic and literal flayings, and the human heart is always central in the rites. The author punctuates his accounts with queasily sensuous descriptions of his own interrupted feasts. At these greater feasts, a black pig is always crowned as king before its slaying. On this occasion, its heart was weighed in the balance against a knot of feathers, and its skin became a cape for the officiant. Its flesh was left for the crows, but I must confess my interest was not in its carcass, but in the perfumed flesh of the milliner laid fresh in the earth. So this should give me a fighting chance on the Nectar book. Wrong desk. We want Nona's desk. I don't think Pripyat gives me Nectar, but Ugal would have. Anyways, so we're at 7 of 8. The hope here is that we get some kind of memory or maybe a furniture to help us. But perhaps you've provided Nectar, but not enough to match Mystery Nectar. If you're lucky, you might still succeed. Better now. Okay, so I think I need to think a little bit about what the day's looking like here. So Mr. Kill's up to 8. We really just need a memory with 2 now. I can keep talking to him and hope that we get the appropriate memory. It might be a little bit smarter if I just leave aside one of the relevant texts. But again, I'm sitting kind of idle right now with my different elements of the soul, so I think we'll just see how this all turns out. Down to the Grushans. Hey, The Exception, thank you very much for 77 months of continued subscribing. $77 is definitely a special milestone, but at that point, there's really nothing more to say other than no refunds. But thank you very much. It is always appreciated. I hope you are doing well, and particularly seeing that little Aristotle emote always puts a smile on my face. You quite regularly use it, so it makes me doubly happy. I actually think I'm going to start bringing back things like Arab just so I can do a little bit more crafting. Yeah, after I say something like that, you would not be... I don't think anybody would fault you asking for a refund. But no, it's very difficult to... I think in general, I think because of the nature of Twitch, it is very difficult to say things that don't seem mercenary or otherwise, purely self-serving. It is not lost on me that this is, this is free, right? I know Twitch is getting a little bit more aggressive in terms of ads, but, the ad blockers are always going to be one step ahead. You accidentally made it funny. Yeah. Well, I was pretty sure I knew what you meant, but it is actually the way that turned out was extremely amusing. But no, let's be honest here, right? Like Twitch is it's a site that tends to reward very, very large channels, and there's absolutely no point in me complaining about that, right? That's just the way this thing works. I signed up for it. Nobody's forcing me to do this. And while Twitch has gotten a bit more aggressive in terms of things like, the advertising and all of that, the fact of the matter is that there is nothing to compel people to subscribe to this channel. It is something that people do voluntarily, and I have done a particularly bad job of making the case for myself simply because I don't really give a whole lot other than these emotes, which I like very much. But, I'm not the only channel with emotes. So in the end, there are, there's any number of reasons to or not to subscribe to the channel, but definitely it is one of these things that is absolutely voluntary. There's no way to compel it, and I have no interest in guilting it. So every time somebody does take that step, it is tremendously appreciated because there are expenses involved in terms of doing the streaming, and especially to see people who've been sticking with the stream for so long. And that also includes names that just regularly come up. There's definitely people who I can remember from the very early days of the stream. These are things that should never be taken for granted, and I do my best not to, but they're also worth acknowledging at the time. And Nick Gnome says you have an early meeting in 4 hours, so you need to jump into bed. Thanks for the stream. Well, thank you very much for hanging out, Nick Gnome. I feel for all the time. I really didn't give you as good of a show as I could have, because I know Book of Hours is not always your number one choice, but it is wonderful to see you again. I'd love to hear more about your languages as they go by. We've got quite a bit of an outpouring of creativity lately. Delude was talking about a Yu-Gi-Oh! And sort of Book of Hours inspired thing. You're talking about your languages, and I'm not just trying to keep viewers when I say I'd like to hear more about them. I actually do tend to find it quite inspiring when people talk about the stuff they're working on, so feel free to share that when you are ready to show stuff. But have a good night and good luck with your meeting tomorrow. All right. Serpentinite slab. These are always a pain to store. That usually means I should find a place for them. Nuts. No room anywhere. Beautiful. So this gets us our last memory for Mr. Kill. I can discuss a memory with my assistant. This will use up the memory, but boost the assistant's abilities for the rest of the day. Like I said, I'm going to keep the Screaming Summit for a day when we have snow. That seems to be the easiest way to get Mr. Kill to open that up. Nectar. Actually, the other thing I should remember is that with Nectar, if we hire an Orchard Keeper, we get some more there. I don't think it would be enough to get us up to 11. So I don't think I'm missing out too much there. Maybe even 10. But anyways, something for me to remember in future. For now, though, we're going to see if we can read this book. Weather, Soul, and Memory. Okay, so we won twice over. I'm going to hold off on reading this until we get past the opportunities. Better now. And try the cake with the apples. We're getting there. In this case, I think I'm going to try and make the meringue. Or can I? The meringue is an egg and sugar, and I don't have the egg. So maybe I should just make some more dough? Oh, also, I haven't looked at all the different things I can do with potatoes, so let's actually get those on the list. So simplest one is roast potatoes. So if we add dripping magnificently. And I think if we just add the knife on its own, that's not sufficient, but if we add the dripping, then we get game chips. Okay. I should probably look for other opportunities like that, but for now, let's make another dough. Okay, there's still a chance. Increase relevant aspects by adding a weather card, which will be used up. Now we're ready to read the delightful those indignities perpetrated by the deceitful fraternity of Obliviates. It is not clear whether CROD, who is identified only by his initials, was in fact an initiate of the Obliviate Order of Immortal Adepts. He wrote in the 16th century after the order, if he is to be believed, had passed the height of its power. 58, that they did claim inheritance of the traditions of the House of Leith, but that they have disregarded both its most sacred and most beautiful ceremonies where they are not found convenient. 59. 71. The Glassfinger toxin is no mere assassin's convenience for the Oblividiots to confine to the disposal of their enemies. It has higher uses. Certainly it is a great matter of winter, but I have already outlined the technique by which it may be fitted for its ultimate destiny. Foresight, no. Contradictions. Something uncomfortable. Oblividiots is one of my... I guess I can't really say one of my favorites because everything winds up being my favorite, but Oblividiots is definitely a particularly memorable line of CROD's magnum opus. there's really nothing else for us to keep Mr. Kill around for. In fact, the metal and the Faust here are purely optional at this point. So one thing I can do is get the Earth sign back, although by reading De Ratio Quercum, I'm already getting an Earth sign. So De Ratio Quercum, in English, this title translates roughly as The Account of the Oaks, but this is Nathaniel Darcy Evers' fascinating, if haphazard, survey of the occult properties of every tree he can find, not just oaks. In Persia, Taxus baccata, the yew, is called Sorkdar, which is the red tree. There they had long understood the Grail root. In later times, the great king of Pontus had beehives set in the branches of the oldest of the female trees. The berries of the Pontine yew open the door to death, but the honey of their flowers opens a different door entirely. This was not the great king's Mithridate, but one who has suckled at the great yew fears poison no longer. Perhaps they should. Nathaniel is here distracted, however, by the toxic properties of certain inks. He does mention more usefully that the minor ink of power Yew-Gall can be brewed through the rites of the roots with the assistance of the aspect nectar. So, speaking of rites of the roots, so neither of these elements of the soul, the Faust or the metal, really help me. It would be nice if I can get a level up on the rites of the roots, so I guess it depends on... So this is earning money. I could probably turn the metal into cash and then buy back a tryst, or do it the other way around. I think I'm going to do that. And as far as next steps, I really just need to find something to do with the Faust. Well, let's let the timer run down. I figure at the minimum I can talk with the chickens and get some eggs. The skill is now level 2. Its power aspects have also increased. The Ragged Crossroads to understand why 4 paths were not taken. Dead men don't tell no bloody tales. Well, who'd listen? Yes, let's bring back the tryst first, I think. It is autumn when the leaves rustle. The silent landlady has served me apple pie with steamed cream in the window nook. And more dough. So again, there's a limit in terms of what I can do here. We've got Scale, Heart, Nectar, and Grail. So realistically, Arab Core, Health. Yeah, Arab Core and Health are my options. Now, there are other kitchens, so this is one reason why this would be a bit of a priority, but we'll work with what we've got right now. So I think the way this is going to work is I'm going to level up Rites of the Roots using the Earth sign. Then either the metal or the Faust can be used to get another Earth sign. And then at the end of the day, we can use whichever of these two remains to make some money at the Sweet Bones. A couple of other things that I want to think about in the long term. So we've got Keeper Skin, we've got quite a few different curses running around. And so this may be a good opportunity for me to think about what exactly I'm like. I've got a little bit of an idea now in terms of some of the things that I'm entering in first. Now may be a good time for me to think about what skills do I want to level up, and specifically what level do I want to get them to. So for instance, the most cautious that I could do, so we've got for Keeper Skin, we've got 3 books with Keeper Skin. So this requires 7 nectars, so if I can find something that's good against corruptions with 7 nectar, so this is an example of something corruption but doesn't have nectar, we should have herbs and infusions. Yeah, so there's one argument that says bring this up to level 7. It's like, well, do I need to bring it up to level 7 or do I need to bring it up to level 6 so that I can use my health? Or maybe I need to bring it up to level 4 because then I can use my health and an earth sign. Well, maybe I don't even need to do that. Maybe I knock that down a couple more because I know there's some other things that I can bring to the desk. And, there's no one right answer to these things. But definitely while I'm trying to work out what skills to put into what slots, considering what's good at healing stuff would be a consideration here. Not one right now, but all right, better now. So we'll use the Faust for money. We will level up Rites of the Roots. There's always more to learn. And with the last step, we will take my metal. We will add... Oh! Let's get you on the right shelf. And we'll still talk with Mr. Kill. I don't see any harm in... Right. The oldest hours are the gods from blood who rose from sacrifice. That blood was always spilt on the roots, and the rites of its spilling are still remembered. So I didn't need to give up the earth sign after all. Okay, so in 16 seconds we'll see what memories we get from Mr. Kill. We may want to compare that to the books that we have. I don't see any need to rush this. So we just read this. I'm going to leave this aside. Alright, another foresight, so we'll take Mr. Kill. The blackened yard, a ferocious heat has scorched, even melted the stones, but, as at the bridge, it's only here and there. Horribly here and there mostly seems to be where people happen to be standing. Charred, cracked bones scatter the yard. Okay. So, under books that I want to read, so let's say Unhatched Hymns, Iron Book, Collected Hush House Lectures. These three are, yeah, I really need a better overflow. I actually have so many different overflow areas of the house right now, it's a little embarrassing. Actually, here's what I'm going to do. So, Ambrosial counts as an overflow. Actually, here's what I'll do. So I'll move you over here. These ones can move over to the side because we're starting to consolidate a bit. So same story here with Menescate Reflections. It's not that this isn't useful, it's just we wind up with a little more than what I bargained for. Three Flowers Hath the Tree is the same story. Okay, so this is definitely a new one for us. This is definitely a new one for us. Hang on. Or not a new one, but one I want. Iron Book is a new one for us. Hush House Lectures is a new one for us. Okay. So yeah, all of these, it's not that we can't use them, it's that we can't use them without moving past level 2, which we're not ready to do yet. Okay. So collected Hush House Lectures I can basically read anytime I want. The Ascendant, the best edge that I can throw at this is it really 2? Sharps has got to be better than that. Yeah, so 3, 4, 5, 7. Ooh, so that's basically, I'm waiting on Hail, and even then that is a narrow path. Iron Book is a little more realistic. But again, so Sharps 3. Okay, so Sharps 3, Element of the Soul 4, Barrette 5, Memory 7. So this is the kind of order of easiest to most difficult. I think the Confounding Parable is the most attractive out of these, because it's the one that my existing assistants can't give me. Memories fade, assistance departs, but the soul is refreshed. So step 1, I can't see a situation in which I'm going to want to use my Whist. So we'll make some money for a start. Now, I may want to use my health, my core, all of those things. I may want to use those in the future, but right now I want to make the most of the season. It would actually be kind of nice to do some other gardening. So what is it? Actually, it looks like for most of these... Yeah, so Fragrant Chalice might be nice, and I actually don't have any Agave Eterna yet. But I think I'm going to focus on pears and veggies. Okay, back to my list. Sea pie is dough and beef, and that's the next one on the list. Well, actually, technically, pear pie is. Do I have leftover? Yep. Bake a pear pie. Does the gale give me something I want to work with? I think the first place I'd probably want to check would be, do I have any like heart or sky texts that not really. So another alternative here would be to say, okay, we've got something like the Screaming Summit. What happens if I do, so if I have Mr. Kill, he's got 1 sky, we add the Gale, which would bring him up to 4. We can give him T, which would take him up to 5. Fost, which would take him up to 6. But that's only halfway, and we've not fully exhausted things, but clearly it's more than we can handle. We do now have access to Mrs. Kill, who with Heart, so we could bring her up to 4, 6 with the Core, 7 with the Cake Bowls. I think we need 10. Oh, excuse me. Yeah. So let's see what happens. I want to see what happens when this area opens up. We may get some other ideas. The jail yard. The jail was nicknamed the Cucurbit for the alchemist's flask that distills and refines. Prisoners would become better versions of themselves, realigned to responsibility. Hence, though it would have been much safer to confine the more potent inmates to their sealed cells, Governor Collars insisted that even they should be given fresh air, or allowed fresh air and exercise. So, exercise yard. The prisoners of the Cucurbit were permitted to grow neither too strong nor too weak. Here they were subjected to an exacting regime which developed both their bodies and their souls in accordance with the governor's designs. So, to the left we have the Worm-Eaten Hall, which requires either 11 Winter, 11 Moth, or 11 Forge. Now, we can definitely handle 11 Winter, so no real worry there. Alternatively, we can go up, Blackened Staff Room, so in this case it would be 11 Grail or 11 Heart. Definitely more realistic to think that we can make it to the Worm-Eaten Hall. But I think this is a good place for me to finish. I am feeling a little woozy. I think this is just the heat. But I think I'm going to leave it here. Now, just a word of caution. The third Wednesday of every month, and it's hard to believe that we're at this point in autumn already, but we are. Normally that is the Dirty Rectangles sort of local game dev meetup. However, I believe this month they may be sort of skipping it. I know there used to be a barbecue, but I don't think that's going to be happening. So I will try and get some clarity in terms of Wednesday. I will say, just for the sake of certainty, no guarantees for Wednesday, but I think it is likely that I will. I think it's likely that I'm going to be streaming, more so than the other ones where I say I'll try if I can. Like, this is one where I think it's likely that I'm going to be able to stream. In fact, there's maybe one other thing I can look for. Yep, just a reminder that in Ottawa, Rectangles takes August off from Show and Chills. However, if you're in Toronto, those crazy kids are throwing a park hangout on the 17th. So, with that in mind, I will be streaming on Wednesday, barring, power outage or fatality. But yeah, so Wednesday I'll be back for more House of Late, same for Friday. The main plan for Wednesday, I think, is going to be... we've got some foundations in terms of the different skills, and I have a rough idea in terms of how I want to approach these books, but I don't currently have the skills that I need for most of these books. So I think probably the plan here is going to be to if not commit stuff to the Tree of Wisdoms, at the very least, like essentially I want to have a good argument for why I'm not committing stuff to the Tree of Wisdoms, because we do have some options inside here, but after winter is done, that's going to be that's kind of the best season for making more Solomon's Preparation. And honestly, at this point, I think probably getting a Shapt would be more convenient than not, and getting a Shapt means that I need to unlock the Nyctodromi tree. But again, I've got... I feel like I'm in an okay spot here. I think before autumn, I'd like to pick where I'm putting Great Signs and Great Scars and Rites of the Roots. And then after that, I think probably I'm going to start thinking about which of these am I going to guarantee to higher levels. And I think the way I'm going to think about that is Edict's Martial is one that kind of gets an automatic move to the top. Quenchings and Quellings, same story. I may prefer ones that are effective against corruptions, at least up to level 7, or, level 7 minus some, sensible amount that would be applied for, for the given corruption. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like I feel there are some straightforward. So actually, a perfect example here of Magaphine Mysteries, right? Probably what I want to do is, if I'm going to use that as effective against corruption, we would say, okay, well, we've got a heart and a moon. So perhaps what we would want to do, we can say, well, Core gives me 2 heart and Trist gives me 1 moon. So both of those take me to 4. And then on top of that, I have a tool which will take me up to 5. So really what we want to do is take Magaphine Mysteries up to 4, because then I know that I'm able to deal with the corruptions that align with that particular skill. But I'm not overcommitting that, so that I can focus on some other ones. Anyways, my big dilemma here for the stream really is trying to find the division between doing this effectively while still trying to make some progress in the game. And I think the back half of this week is definitely going to be where I make up for lost time. All right, let's see who is online, and I will pass you off to some what do we have here? It has been a while since I've hosted Vesper Fortune, and he's currently playing Persona 4 Golden, so I'm the only one doing House of Light right now, or Book of Hours right now. But Vesper Fortune is somebody who I found playing Cultist Simulator, and I think if we bully him enough, he will play. Please don't bully Vesper. But I think if we ask him nicely, he will try Book of Hours at some point. So have a very good night yourself, Tikri. I'd love to hear about some of your future gaming plans. So yeah, this is one thing. Oop, that was a little too soon. I've been delighted by some of the things people have mentioned. So out of the things that have come up, so Daily Daybreak mentioned the Yu-Gi-Oh! Idea. We have Index Gnome with the languages, and then I've always been fond. I know Takria, I've known more of as a player of RPGs, but I know you're running at least one of these. So again, I'm somewhat envious because these are not things I would consider myself talented at, but I don't know. I think I'm allowed to still be impressed by what people are up to. Anyways, I don't want to take away from Vesper Fortune too much. Please have a wonderful evening, and we will see you on Wednesday, hopefully with a little bit more progress in the House of Light DLC. Until then, have a lovely evening. Take care.